one of the videos that you did a while ago that I thought was great was where you called out the UN and the UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese. She's flat out denying Hamas rapes and violence against women. And you yourself are a survivor of horrific domestic violence. What does that feel like to see institutionalized denial of violence against women?
Look, it's hard. And I think what frustrated me so much about her and about that is that if we were talking about any other group in the world, including me, there would not even be room for one iota of doubt ever that would be ever expressed publicly, because you just
Right.
wouldn't. As if you wouldn't believe women like that. And to be honest, the left take that to the extent that is almost sometimes dangerous as well. In that, okay, but we also need people to have, it has to be tested in some way, shape, or form. What frustrated me so much about her is that we have so much evidence and she still could not acknowledge. And I only recently came out with my story mid last year, so maybe 6 months ago. I've never spoken about it. The thought of people feeling sorry for me or thinking I'm a victim makes me deeply uncomfortable. It still does even now, but I'd been asked many, many times to come out because people thought it would help people, and I think it did, and I'm glad that I did. But when I came out with my story, the number of feminists and people who just showered me in this incredible support, sending me messages, doing public things, how brave Erin is to share her story. And then October 7 happened, and all of a sudden we're seeing all of this and, reports coming out about what actually happened to women. We're seeing women bent out of shape. We're seeing women with blood on the back of their pants. And they're silent. These exact same women who came out publicly to support me were suddenly silent about Jewish women who were exposed. And this was much bigger than just my story, which was really only a story in Australia. This was massive, and yet they were silent. And it just, it drives me crazy. I think Albanese is one of the most dangerous, people of our time when it comes to this issue. And she is doing a great disservice to the people that she is meant to be helping. And if she deeply cares about women, if she deeply cares about children in Gaza, then she would be standing up for their right to exist without terrorists within and amongst them every day of the week. The greatest gift she could ever give women, children, innocent people in Gaza would be the eradication of Hamas, the terrorists who are responsible for their pain and suffering and always have been. So, yeah, she's dangerous.
Would you say that was your first exposure to this idea of Jews don't count, which as a Jew, we're quite familiar with and has been going on for some time?
I had no idea, legitimately no idea. I obviously understood the Holocaust, and I knew that, the horrific things that had happened to your people in the past. But particularly even in Australia, to people would stop me in the street. This is over the last few years when Dad was still alive, and Jewish people in Australia, and say, your dad's amazing. He's such a great ally of our community. And I'd smile and say, oh, isn't he the best? He's lovely. Nice to meet you. And then I'd walk away and think, why do you need allies? Like that it was a bizarre thing to me, like thinking, you're living in relative peace. Well, you are here in Australia and blah, 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 blah. And then when October 7 happened, and I think, the moment it hit me was, wait a minute, there is not an IDF boot on the ground in Gaza yet, and I am seeing Australians in front of our iconic buildings celebrating that and chanting, vile slurs towards Jews and at the Jews. And I went, okay, wait a minute. And that was one thing, right, to have like people celebrating, pro-Hamas. But then I started to see it in circles that I would never have thought would have ever not stood up immediately to support a minority group who was doing it tough or who had just been subjected to what the Jewish population had been subjected to. So, yeah, it was, and it was a real eye-opener for me. I guess I was naive. I didn't understand. But to be honest, a lot of people I've spoken to who are Jewish and who are in this field in particular of anti-Semitism and other things have said they did not even realize how much was bubbling under the surface.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think we were all shocked and surprised by the amount of hate just ready to rip. But there were troubling signs and increasing data on anti-Semitism growing and growing and growing, building up to this. This was a good excuse to let it all out. So the monologue that you did that introduced me to you was the one after the killing of Sinwar. That was the first time I saw you. I was like, who is this gorgeous blonde Australian with a hostage pin who is nailing Western leaders to the wall? And it was so, to me, this is like the Erin special. It's like blistering in its clarity and also deeply felt. To me, that's sort of like your secret sauce. And, you were talking about Biden, talking about Harris, talking about your own foreign minister, Penny Wong. And you said, this victory, the killing of Sinwar, is in spite of you, not in any way because of you. How did those elected to lead us fail so miserably?
The rage that I felt and I still feel is very authentic and genuine because, and as I've said since, look, I haven't figured out why. I think they're just weak. I don't think there is an actual answer to any of it. But when I look at the reaction of world leaders in the aftermath, not one came out and said what they needed to say. And it wasn't rocket science. It wasn't hard. You can say, this is awful, thoughts and prayers. This is awful, thoughts and prayers. Let's go to Canada. This is awful, thoughts and prayers. Let's go to, so this is awful, thought. You think that's going to stop a bunch of terrorists? I mean, if the world had united and come together, and when I say the world, I'm talking about their leaders, and said, not on our watch, you scumbags. You have 24 hours to, we would never have seen what we have seen play out. We would never have seen the deaths in Gaza. We would never have seen the extent of suffering in Israel and the Jewish community around the world. It's hard for me to fathom. I look at Argentina's new president and Milei, and he makes the point, and this is a translation, but something to the effect of, when you finish in politics, most people will hate you, and that's a given. So you might as well do what you believe is right when you are there. And I just can't imagine that every politician who was weak and terrified was doing what they really thought was right. They were doing what they thought they needed to do to placate very loud minority groups and very left extremist on both sides elements that they were trying to placate and cater to. And I just, if a leader can't stand up when terrorists come and murder 1,200 people, burn children alive in rooms, do the most horrific. I watch the Raw Vision, every second of it. If leaders can't stand up and say, we don't stand for this, then I mean, how screwed is the world? And not even on behalf of another nation, by the way. It's not even that you are wondering, do you guys mind, because we're allies, coming to help us, support us, even just your rhetoric. We don't actually need your soldiers or anything else, just your rhetoric. It was our people. There were Australians involved. There were Canadians. There were Americans. There were people from the UK. Their own citizens were involved in this, yet their weakness, as I said just this week, weakness in high places and high doses in spades. And it just, all it did, Hamas must have just in Iran must have been going, God, even we didn't think that oh, God. Hey, have you, what? Man, we thought
we're going to get away with this.
Thought they would have thought, we'll get the university students and we'll get those bloody, knobs over there who'll march for us in the streets and but we didn't. I mean, God, even we couldn't have envisaged it to go this well. It's crazy. The whole thing is crazy, and all it did was empower, embolden, and enable the terrorists to do what they've done thus far, and then they'll all, how dare you have killed so many people in Gaza? You are the ones that forced this to go for 18 months by your weakness, and not even your weakness, but you imposed that weakness on Israel and its response to what occurred. So, they are so complicit in this, and it's been shameful to watch.
It's going to be a long time until we can collectively look back, and I think these people will realize everything that you just said.
Absolutely. They will be remembered very vividly for what they did and did not do over this time.